January. He's from Monforte. He has moved to the US, but we have him back. I don't know for how long. So he has agreed to do this presentation for you related to his photography and also to his experiences in both countries. So here he is.
I don't know how to read. Well, anyway, hello everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm gonna just a couple of housekeeping things. Rachel is recording all this talk. I'm gonna be posting this online, so if any of you wanna watch it again or just a part of this talk, I'll be sharing it online somewhere. You can find me here. I have an Instagram account, Twitter, a YouTube channel, and this is my website, so you'll be able to find this talk there later. And if you have any questions, there will be some time at the end for questions or comments, but if you have any questions, you can interrupt me at any moment. As Vanessa said, I'm from here, I'm from Monforte. My name is Adrian. I was born here almost 40 years ago, and I lived here for 18 years, and then I kept coming here for a long time. So I know this place very well, or I thought I knew. It took me, moving to another country, to move abroad, not just another country, but another continent, and to come back and embrace photography, to see this place in a different way and for what it really is or what it can offer. So today we'll be talking for the next hour about photography, of course, and we'll be looking at a lot of photos from here and from other places. We'll be talking about a little bit about cameras, some tips, how to take photos, how to edit them, and I hope that by the end of this talk, you'll feel a little bit more inspired to get out with your phone, your camera, whatever you might have, and maybe take some photos, because as we'll hopefully see, this is a kind of a special place, even if it doesn't look like it, to take photos, and there are many opportunities out there to make good photos. So, as I said, you can find me here. I share pictures every day on my Instagram, Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel where I post also videos that I make around here. So this is about my photography journey, and this is what I consider it to be a lifelong journey, because even if right now I'm a full-time professional photographer, and I feel like I have to say that because nowadays it's kind of hard to make a living with photography, especially if you are not someone like a wedding photographer or anything like that. So I consider myself more like not a landscape photographer, but maybe fine art photography. So I just get out there and take photos of what I think is beautiful. And that's kind of hard to make money with that. As I said, it's not like, if you're a wedding photographer, you have always customers and stuff like that. But with this, it's a little bit harder. So I have to say that this is what I do for a living. This is what I do every day. This is what I do a lot of hours every day. And this is me. This is where my journey started. I don't know when this was taken, maybe 7-8 years ago, and this is in Oregon. This is Mount Hood. It's like an hour and a half drive from Portland. We used to live in Portland. Well, Rachel is my wife. She's from the United States. She's from Indiana, and we met here, and then we moved to the US like some 9 years ago, and we moved to here to Oregon. And I'm not sure how much you know about Oregon, but when we moved there, I had no idea about the place. It's kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of like Galicia. It's in the corner of the country, in the Northwest. And not many people know much about it, or Oregon and Washington State. So when I got there, I had no idea what to expect. And I found these beautiful landscapes and these beautiful mountains and the coast and everything. So of course, what I had to do when I saw those things was to pick up a camera and start taking photos. And I started going out on every weekend and after work and stuff like that. This was me with my dog. She's Luna. And so it got I like it so much that I decided to, at some point, just quit my job and dedicate myself to photography. That was some 4.5 years ago, and that's all I've been doing since then. Well, then, of course, we moved out of Portland, and now we don't live anywhere. We spend a few months a year here in Monforte. We spend some more time in the US with her family, and then the rest of the time we are just traveling across Europe and North America. So yeah, as I said, I don't know how much you know about Oregon, but let me tell you that it's a beautiful place. So this is the coast. That's me again. Those people, I don't know those people, but it's just to show you some examples. This is again Mount Hood, and this is a friend of mine. And this is the same friend, a different mountain. This is the top of a mountain that is called South Sister, and this is a glacier. So these are the kind of places. These are more mountains there. And of course, all of these landscapes inspire me to start taking photos and to get out on hikes. This is a pretty cool place. This is called Crater Lake. So this used to be a huge mountain that blew off, like, I don't know, thousands of years ago. And it created this huge crater that filled up with water over time. And now it's a lake. It's called Crater Lake. And it's a beautiful place. And I like too the big trees and the forests. That's our car. We were going on a road trip through the snow. So it's a beautiful place. And as you can see, I almost feel like I had to take a camera and take photos of these places and share them with my family and friends back here, because I thought that these landscapes were pretty cool and worth sharing. And that's how I started, and that's my why, my reason for photography. Because photography, like any art, like music, writing, or whatever you want to call it, it requires a lot of time. It's a big commitment. You have to get out as often as you can. It's not just, going to a place and start taking photos. You need to go to these places, but if you go during sunrise or sunset, everything's going to look more beautiful. So it requires a lot of time and commitment. So you have to like it. You have to love it. You need to have a reason. You have to have a purpose. And these beautiful landscapes were my why, were my reason, and why I started to do it. So after that, we went on a few road trips across America. This was in Montana. So I had a job back then, a 9-to-5 job. Rachel did too. So these trips were all on, on vacation, on when we had time off, or on the weekends. And we visited a lot of places around there. That was Death Valley. That was a place in Washington. That was California. That's Canada, the Rocky Mountains. So it was a cool time when I was, as I said, going on trips on the weekends and just when I had some time off from work. But slowly but surely, I felt less and less inspired, because I was visiting all of these incredible landscapes, that I felt that I had to go to a breathtaking place like these ones to actually be able to make good images. And photography is something that I wanted to do every day, but where we lived in Portland and going to the office every day, well, I didn't have the chance of seeing all these places. These amazing places were things that happened just a few times a year. So I didn't feel inspired during the rest of the time to get out and take photos anywhere. So it was a time where I kind of, not gave up on photography, but I did it less and less. And then it was a time also where I started to experiment after a while with photography. And this is the time where I had my first, let's call it, revelation. I started to try something new. I was black and white. And as you can see, this is one of my first black and white images. It's also the cover of my first book. It was one of the first images that I made in black and white. Of course, I had taken photos before this one in color, and I converted them to black and white. But this one, I actually set up my camera to black and white, so I was seeing it in black and white from the beginning. It's not something that I did afterwards. So this wasn't a trip in Oregon. It was kind of a revelation, because when I saw those places on the screen of my camera in black and white, I was seeing the place that I had in front of me and all the things and the landscape, but seeing them in black and white, they look and they felt different. Like it was like a window or a gate to a new world. And I felt like a little bit more free to do whatever I wanted to do with what I had in front of me, because black and white it was something new, as I said. It didn't look like we are used to, because we are used to see the world in colors, and in black and white, I was free to create new stuff. So that inspired me a lot, and that allowed me to shoot in very different conditions. I didn't have to go to those beautiful places where I went before. So for example, this was made from the window of a hotel room in Chicago. And this is an image that I really liked when I saw it. I made it with a small camera, actually. And this is an image that I might have not tried to take in color, but because of black and white, I felt free to try these things. As you can see, I was also embracing the square format. I was experimenting with a lot of aspect ratios. So instead of having your rectangular photo, I started to take these images in square. I like it a lot, because for me, they feel more calm and more peaceful, and more, balanced than a rectangular image that feels a little bit like more dramatic and with more tension. So those two things, black and white and square, came from that period of time where I was not feeling as inspired as before. So through a lot of experimentation, I got here to this combination. I was also practicing and trying new techniques, like long exposures. So I don't want to get too technical today into photography, because I don't think it's worth it, but a long exposure is when we keep the camera taking a photo for longer than usual. When we take a photo, usually for a fraction of a second, maybe 1/500th of a second or something, we freeze the time, but with long exposures, we keep the shutter open. The camera is taking a photo for maybe 1 second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or maybe several minutes, or maybe even several hours. In this case, I think it was around 2 to 3 minutes. It might be hard to tell here, but this is an island in the Pacific, and this is the ocean. So if I were to take a regular photo of this place, you could see all the waves and all the ripples here, but because it was a long exposure and I took it for, 2 to 3 minutes, all the water is smoothed out, it's all smooth, and you don't see anything. You see a texture-less surface here. So that allows you to, or that allowed me to, isolate that subject that it was the island, that in my opinion looked pretty cool and pretty beautiful, because if I had all the waves, that would be competing against the island for your attention, for whoever is looking at the image. And I think that this approach, again, black and white, square, and sometimes trying new techniques like long exposures, is something that made me fall in love with photography again. And it's when I realized that this is what I wanted to do as often as I could, for as long as I could, is when I decided to quit my job, and until today. So this is another example of another long exposure. This was in Portland, and this is a pretty cool bridge. It's called the St. John's Bridge. So I had this image in mind for a long time. You can't see it here, but at the other side of the bridge here on the sides lower, this is a pretty busy scene. So there are usually a lot of buildings around here, a lot of trees and a lot of things that were distracting to the image. So I knew that I wanted a foggy day with fog, so you couldn't see any of that in the background. So I waited a few weeks or a few months until I got the right conditions, and when they happened, well, it was you can't choose when these things are going to happen. So this happened at around 6 p.m. on a weekday. So it was during rush hour. So the bridge was full of cars, of people getting out of work, out of work. And so a regular photo would not work for what I wanted to do, because if I took a regular photo, you could see the individual cars here. And I was trying to avoid all of those distractions. I didn't want you to get lost looking at this car, this truck, or whatever. I just wanted to highlight, to emphasize the bridge itself, the shape of the bridge. So what I did instead is I took a long exposure. I think this was for another couple minutes, I don't remember. But it was taken from here. There was a lot of traffic around and there was a lot of smoke. It was not the best place or the most pleasant experience, but in the end, I really liked the image that resulted from that. Again, you can see those are the headlights of the cars. On the other side, you can't see it here, but there is a few shadows. Those are the tail lights of the cars, the red lights. So that's another example for several minutes. And I have two examples of other long exposures, this one and this one. So you can barely see here, it's very dark. This was one of my first experiments with long exposure. This was at Mount St. Helens. You can barely see it there, but Mount St. Helens is a volcano in Washington State. And it blew off in the 80s or something like that. It was like a pretty big thing, and you can still go there today and you can see a lot of the devastation. It's an incredible sight because you can see what happened there almost, 40 years ago. And it's pretty incredible to see how powerful nature can be, and you feel kind of, very small seeing those things. So this is the full moon. It was rising from here. And it was a long exposure for, I was there for like 4 hours. So during 4 hours, the camera kept taking this picture. So you can see the trail of the moon as I was moving through the sky. So you can create things like that. I tried to do something similar here. This is Crater Lake, the place that I showed earlier. So you can see this is the crater, and there is a lake, and there is another volcano within the lake, within the volcano. Anyway, I went there for during a full moon night as well, and you can see it rising there. But it didn't work as well because there were some clouds far in the horizon, so it's kind of fuzzy there. But I mean, it worked fine. And I like the image, but these are the things that I like to try out there. And through those things that I was talking about, black and white, square images, and things like long exposure, that allows me to create images that to me feel, as I said, peaceful and serene, and they are more minimal and more, simple. And I like to create this kind of stuff, wherever I am and wherever I go. So. For the following years after that, after I quit my job and I started to do photography for a living, I visited a lot of locations. So this was in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm just going to go a little bit quicker here. This was in New Mexico. This is a place called the White Sands. So these are actually sand dunes, and they are white. The sand is white. It's a beautiful place. I happened to be there with almost full moon as well. So these are the images that I like to make, as I said, very simple and minimal. And the advantage of this approach is that I can make these images anywhere. Like, for example, this one, I can tell you where this was. This was like Lake Tahoe in Nevada, but it could have been here. Yeah, well, we don't have many lakes in Galicia. I'm not really sure why. But if we had a lake, or this could be a river or whatever, they are just 3 rocks and a few mountains there in the background. But this could have been made anywhere. It was there in Lake Tahoe, but and that's what I like about this approach to photography, that I don't have to be anywhere really special. I can be anywhere and I still create something that I think it's beautiful, or at least it speaks to me. This was in Utah. These were at the Salt Flats. So usually, this place, it's a desert, and the ground is full of salt, and it's white. But every once in a while, when it rains, and it doesn't take much rain, but the whole place floods, and there is there was a lot of water there. So those were mountains in the distance, and there were some reflections. I decided to. It was a very peaceful morning out there. I was alone. This was during sunrise. If I show you the original image here, you could see all the colors of the sunrise. So it felt very peaceful, and I tried to make an image that felt the same way. So I did it that way. This was very close to there. This was at the Great Salt Lake in Utah as well. And the water was very, very calm that day. So the ripples that you see there with the reflection of the light, I had to make them. I was in the lake actually, and I had to move my leg to actually create those ripples in the water. Here we see 3 mountains. This was in California in the Eastern Sierra. It was close to the border with, I think it's Nevada too. I know, it's a beautiful place. And you can see some of the elements that I've been talking about, just trying to make, instead of getting the whole grand vista, because these 3 hills that you can see here are part of a much bigger, vast vista and panorama. So instead of taking the whole thing, I decided to just focus on that. And this was now we moved to Europe. This is in Italy. This is a cool place that is called Lago di Garda in the province of Trento. And again, this is a lake. I went for a long exposure, and simple things like just a few rocks and a stick in the water. And I mean, this is not for everyone, I know, but it's something that I really like, and it's something that I find extremely beautiful because when you walk by this place, it doesn't look anything like that. The water, has ripples and waves, and it takes a little bit of imagination to get here. And this is what I enjoy from doing what I do, just trying to find these new words and these new scenes in an everyday life. This was an image made here in Spain. This is in the Pyrenees Mountains. Well, that mountain is in France, actually, so this is pretty close to the border. But this is just a stream of water that I thought looked pretty cool with the mountains in the background. This was again in Italy, in Venice. So this is a gondola. And again, this was for like, 2 minutes or so. So the gondola was moving in the water, but the sticks were not. So it creates things like this. That again, you have to use your imagination to actually visualize these things a little bit before taking the photo. Back to the US, this was in Chicago. This is Lake Michigan, again water, more long exposures. This again was a sunrise, so you can only see a little bit of the buildings there. And you can actually see here another thing that I like to do in my photography is not to show all the details, like the buildings here, the skyline of Chicago is pretty dark. You can't see if the buildings have windows or whatever. You can't see much of that. It's like kind of hinting what it's there, but it's not showing all the details. It's not revealing all that you have there. And I really like that too, to suggest, for my images to be more suggestive instead of telling you everything that is going on there. This is another example. This was pretty close to here. This was in Asturias, in the Picos de Europa. So it was a very cloudy, rainy day. So these clouds were rolling in and out and kind of, hiding and showing, revealing some of the mountains, some of the peaks. And there was this moment, I took a bunch of pictures here, but I chose to keep this one because it was the one that was kind of more suggestive for the same reasons that I was talking about. It was just showing this part of the mountain instead of the whole thing. A similar idea here. This was taken from a boat. This is New York, Manhattan. You can't really see the buildings. You can see that it's just a hinting that there are buildings there, that there are waters here. I was actually focusing on the window, and there are drops on the window. So once again, it's more suggestive than anything else. This is in Colorado, in the Rocky Mountains. And this is in Arlington Cemetery in Virginia. Another thing that you can see here is a little bit of contrast. Another thing that I like to do in my photography is to find contrast between the subject and everything else. So we have here a very dark tree against a very white surroundings. In this case, well, they are the tombs. So that's what we did for 3 years. We kept traveling across the US and across Europe, and I was enjoying this quite a lot. And actually, in 2018, by the end of 2018, I went a little bit crazy with traveling we went to a lot of places. I know all over the place in the U.S. We went to the Netherlands. I did the Camino de Santiago, and we were going to keep doing that. We were going to go to Iceland, to the United Kingdom. We had everything booked and plane tickets, and then the pandemic happened. And I don't have to tell you what happened then, because you all know what happened. So instead of going to beautiful Iceland and be taking pictures, well, we find ourselves stuck here. We were here when the pandemic happened. But luckily for us, and even more in retrospective, we were very, very lucky because we were able to stay with my parents in their farm in the country. So instead of being here in the apartment without being able to leave, well, we spent the 3 months in my parents' farm. Still, it was pretty limiting because it was just, a small piece of land. But it was, we were able to actually be outside and at least breathe some fresh air every once in a while. But still, for the first few weeks, that was very hard on my photography because, I wasn't able to do much photography, and I had big plans, but all of a sudden, well, we found ourselves kind of stuck. So I started to actually experiment again. This is when I had kind of my second revelation with photography. I started to play with what I had back then in the farm. So this is my parents' farm, this is the house. And I tried to embrace whatever I had, and I looked up to the sky. So this is a short video that I'm gonna play. Hopefully it works. There you go. Well, anyway, as you can see, I was playing with the stars, and with this was, as I said, all from the farm, from that piece of land. There are some trees and some old buildings, old houses, and and this is a cool window. This is a very old wall with a broken window. And since then, this window is gone. They took it down a few months ago because it was too dangerous to have there. But anyway, I was able to do stuff like this. And I felt, as I said, very lucky for being able to do this. And this was within just a few square meters. We weren't leaving the place at all. Another things that I was able to do from the farm was taking photos of the moon. So this is your typical photo of the moon, but it is inverted, meaning that usually this was taken at night, of course, so the sky would be black and the moon would be white, but I reversed the colors. So the blacks are whites and the whites are blacks. So you get this. So as you can see, I was doing a lot of experimentation. I was trying to take photos of stuff that I found around the farm. This was some macro photos, like a bee, that's an ant, a couple flowers, and this was, many people don't know what this is. It kind of looks like a polar bear, but it's actually my parents' dog, and her name is Shesta, and she's very hard to photograph because she keeps moving all the time. But almost by accident, I made this image, and I think it looked pretty cool. It's kind of out of focus, the whole thing, but I think it's nice. I was playing with reflections and puddles. After some rain, that's my hand, that's a tree. I was actually taking photos of clouds as well. There were some storms, so these were a couple cool clouds that were on the sky. And of course, the big elephant in the room, because here in Monforte, this is one thing that we do have, and it's storks. And we had, again, we were very lucky as well because we had this nest just next door to the farm, and there was this couple of storks nesting there, and I was able to spend a lot of hours looking at these two storks. I was able to take a lot of photos of them. So I was playing here with, that's the full moon behind the stork, and then another images. So from this period of time where, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a letdown because I was supposed to be in Iceland instead of here stuck in a farm. But actually, when I look back to those 2-3 months that I spent there, I think it was very useful, and I think it was actually better for me to be here than actually going to Iceland and getting images that everyone else had. So I think these are a little bit more unique, and also it taught me a couple of good lessons. That is to actually look for magical moments and look for them anywhere you are. It could be here, it could be in Iceland, or anywhere, because of course I'm not saying that I don't want to travel anymore, because I still do, but now I know that I can find those magical moments no matter where you are, even if it's in a farm for 2 months. This is a very recent example. This was just last week. This is in the Cathedrals Beach, in the Playa de las Catedrales in northern Lugo. And this was totally by chance. We were not expecting this. So this is in color because I'm still working on the black and white photo. Again, I took this, 5 days ago. So there was a full moon, and just by accident, we happened to be in the area, and I thought that this would be a cool view. So we went there at night, and I took this photo of the full moon. And that is, of course, this is a beautiful place, but we have a full moon anywhere you are, once a month. And I think that the full moon can offer some of these magical moments. It doesn't have to be at this beach, but it could be anywhere. The best example of looking for a magical moment is more about, instead of the location, is more about the mood and the atmosphere that I'm looking for. So this is from a very recent trip in Madeira. For those who know, Madeira is just a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic that belongs to Portugal. It's just a little bit farther north from the Canary Islands. And it's a beautiful place. It reminds me a little bit of Hawaii, I guess, because it has those, it's very green, it has those beautiful, huge, steep cliffs. But I didn't go there because of that. I went there because of this forest. This is called the Fanal Forest, and it's a beautiful place with these trees that are pretty old, and they are crooked and bent. This is pretty high up. I think it's 1,000 meters or higher. And it's pretty close to the coast. The coast is just a few kilometers from here. So it gets very windy, very rainy there. So the trees grow in very weird ways. And it's a beautiful place, as you can see here. The trees do very weird things. But this is what it looks like on a regular day, during the day. They are beautiful trees, it's a beautiful place, but for photography it's not that great because there is no contrast between the trees. It's hard to actually take a photo there of just one single tree. So why did I go there? I went there because I knew that something happens in this place very often, that it happens here to Monforte very often. It gets foggy, we get a lot of fog here, and they get a lot of fog there too. And when this place gets the fog, it kind of comes alive. So it's not so much about the trees themselves, it's not so much about the location itself, it's about those magical moments that we can find. So this is a video that I took, I think, yeah. So this is a pretty cool scene. This is a tree that it looks like almost like a human with a hand. And this place without the fog looks pretty cool, but with the fog, it really comes alive, and it looks like straight out of a fairy tale or something like that. So I was able to create images there of that. And this is another example. So what I'm trying to say here is that yes, these are beautiful trees, but those images are not so much of the trees themselves, but they are about the atmosphere and about the mood that was in that location. And that, luckily for us, we can find in more places than just in beautiful Madeira or whatever. We can find it, for example, here very, very often. And another result, another consequence of the pandemic was that, I did it because it's healthy, but I started to go on daily walks every day. I think I walk, somewhere like 15 kilometers every day, just around town or wherever I am. So I go on these very long walks, and I always bring a camera with me. I usually bring this one, the small one, just in case. I put it in my pocket, just in case I find something. But the purpose is not so much to take photos, but it's just to be out there. And I expose myself to whatever it might happen. So these daily walks, I do them here in Monforte, but I also do them in Indiana. So Rachel is from the Midwest, from Indiana, and we spend a few months there every year as well, here to visit my family, there to visit her family. So that place is special as well, like this one. Every place is special in my opinion. Every place has something special going for it. And we'll see what makes Monforte special, but what makes Indiana special is not the fog, it's the snow, because it snows there quite a lot actually. So it is at any other time of year, like in the summer, where her parents live is like a lake town. So in the summer, a lot of people go there with their boats, and they just swim in the lake, and they just party all summer around there. It's kind of boring. It's like, I know, like here, but without the mountains, without the hills. It's completely flat. There is not much there to photograph. But of course, when the winter comes and the snow comes, everything changes. And that is what makes that place special. So you can just go on walks and find things like, this is a bench. It doesn't, what I like about images like this is like, you know, you find ordinary stuff like a bench. We see benches everywhere, but you don't usually see a bench that is kind of facing nothing. There is a big empty space here, but what you don't see here is that is a lake, but the lake is frozen and then it snowed on top of the ice. So you don't see anything. It looks like the bench is facing almost like to nowhere. And another thing that the snow lets you do is to be very, very minimal and very, I know, simple photos, but that work very well. These are just 2 sticks in the snow, and these are the shadows. This is a pier. As I said, it's a lake town. So this was made from the balcony of Rachel's parents' house. And they usually use that pier for their boat in the summer, but in the winter, well, they don't have use for it. But it looks beautiful because the channel, this is a channel. And again, it freezes. It's just ice, and then it snows on top of the ice, and you don't see anything. Now, Indiana is a little bit different from here, from Monforte. It's not as easy to go on walks. They don't have as many paths, and also during this time, during the winter, because they get so much snow, there is almost no shoulders on the road. So it's very dangerous to walk on the roads there because of the cars. So I had to get a little bit more creative with the places that I wanted to photograph. So I found this place, and I spent so many hours here photographing this place. This is a golf course. We have a golf course here too, but I think that one is open year round. This one is not open during the winter, obviously, because it's full of snow. But it's open, so you can go. I mean, it's open in the sense that it's not fenced or anything, so you can go for walks. Some people go there to ski. As you can see, this is a cross-country skier, I guess. So I saw those marks in the snow, and I thought they looked pretty cool. And all of these images are made at that golf course. This was during a snowstorm. So this is a time where, you know, everyone is in their house. They don't want to leave because it's very cold. It's snowing, it's very windy, and I just love being out there because you see things like this. I mean, this is in black and white, but the real thing was not too far from that. It's just beautiful to be out there and to experience things like that. This is another example. This was one of my very early photos. We can talk about that later a little bit, but I made this one with a film camera. This was in Indiana as well. More examples of the snow. This is pretty close to their house as well. Again, this is coming back to the ordinary things, like just a swing there. But it looks like it's in the middle of nowhere, and it doesn't make much sense that it's there, but this place exists. In the winter, it looks pretty, I don't know, pretty cool. All the fields that usually have, you know, all the corn, and they are working on them in the winter, well, they are just vast lands that are empty with the snow. More piers. This is a building there in Indiana as well. So as you can see, I have plenty of examples of why the snow makes this place special. Even though there is no, I didn't show you any spectacular mountains or lakes or anything. This is just a regular town in America, and just because of the snow, we can find those magical moments that I was talking about, and that is what I think moves me and drives me and my photography. This is just a house with a tree. These are cracks in the ice. It gets cold and the water freezes. And this is another image that I found during my daily walk. So this was early spring, so the lake or the channel was starting to melt a little bit. So this was ice, but this part of the water was free of ice, so you could see what was underwater. And in this case, there was an American flag that someone dropped, I guess, or it fell there during a storm. And I found it there, and I think it looked pretty cool there, the contrast between the ice and the snow and the American flag. But we don't have to wait for the snow. This was made on the foggy day as well. There are some other places that we can find everywhere. So we come to the conclusion that I am a big fan, a big supporter of local photography. As I said, I like to travel. I like to go to beautiful, breathtaking places every once in a while. But the pandemic taught me that we can do a lot of local photography wherever we are. And now I'm going to show you some of the photos that I've made here around Monforte. So as you know, we don't get a lot of snow, but sometimes we do. This was made in where was this? In Pedrafita. It's not Monforte, but it's pretty close. So those are some tombs at the cemetery. This was going towards Quiroga. I think there is a viewpoint near the Sil River, and there was this town. It was a beautiful morning, and there was like some clouds, so I made that image. And coming back more local, this is in a little mountain hill that is near Rivas Altas. I think that you guys to like to walk there. I don't know what the name is. It's Cornado. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's around there. So you go up there, and usually, I mean, it's not an ugly place, but it's not the prettiest place. I mean, it's fine. You get some views of Monforte, but when it's foggy, you can find images like this. It's just a simple power line, and you can see some of the mountains that are still very far in the fog. So you can only see that the image is hinting that there is something there. This was here in town as well. It's just I just walk around here. This is I think it's this place is called Guyade. It's going to Mar Roche. So there are some solar panels there, and well, this was not so much, but that was kind of foggy. So I really like the contrast between, I don't know, kind of high-tech technology solar panels and the sheep there. It's kind of cool that they share the same land to do both themes. This is a scarecrow that I found randomly around here as well. This is made from Mar Roche, a beautiful sunrise, and you can see some of the trees with the sun there. This is a road, I think it's around Puebla, I don't know, but it was a foggy day, and this was in the fall. I think it was September, October. Again, we see this a lot here when it's foggy and the sun starts to break through the fog, so you can actually look a little bit to the sun. I wouldn't do it for too long, but you can look at the sun and see something there. This is I walk by this horse every single day, and I have a lot of photos of this horse, but this is the one that I like the most, and I like it the most because it's the only one that doesn't show the eyes of the horse, so it's kind of suggesting. It's not showing the whole horse. I think it makes you think a little bit more than if I were to show the eye. This is another photo around here with a cat. This was made from my bedroom. In a summer, I woke up to a big storm, so I just took my camera out, set up the tripod, started to take photos. I was lucky enough to get that line in there. One thing that I'm very fascinated about around here is the architecture, because the houses around here are kind of on the ugly side of things, but they are kind of fascinating because, I don't know, the sides of the houses don't have any windows, and when they do, they are kind of very tiny. I guess that is for legal reasons mainly I guess, but I don't know, it makes for kind of cool photos, so I like to play with the sides of the houses and the buildings to do things like that. This is another example here. This is the castle up there on another foggy day. There are more storks. I like to take I like to take a lot of photos of them. I think I have, to make a book just about the storks. This was at the river. This was taken from the old bridge, from the Roman bridge. I was coming back home after going to the grocery store. Actually, I was walking from Gadis with the grocery bags. I had that small camera with me. I saw the swans in the river, and they look kind of cool, you know, a good contrast between the dark river and the swans. So I just took that photo. So as I said earlier, you can take a photo almost anywhere and of anything. This is another stork. This is at a train station. This is one of my favorite spots to take photos from that bridge, the pedestrian bridge over the train station. You can see, I think I counted the other day, like 16 nests. I know there are a lot of storks there. It's pretty cool to see them there. This was, I think it was at the Coronado as well, some trees. And of course, we cannot forget about the beautiful places that we have around here, like this is the Cañones, the El Sil, but you don't even have to go there, I think, to make images. And now really quick, because we only have 10 minutes left, but I just wanted to give some general tips about how to make images. Again, as I said, it's not so much about the camera, the gear, or even the location. Photography is mostly about timing, and it's about being at the right time, at the right place at the right time. So for example, here I showed you this image before. This was made in Indiana, and there we have the same scene, but of course this was made in February in the winter, and that was made in the summer. So what I want you to see here is that it doesn't really matter how good of a photographer you are. You could be the best photographer ever, and you could have the best camera ever, that if you are here, you're never going to make an image as good as this one, even if you just have a phone in here, because in my opinion, at least, this looks much better than that one. So I think it's very important to actually look for the right conditions instead of anything else. I think that is the most important thing. But of course, the camera matters a little bit. So for example, in this image, I like it, but this image works because only the eyes and the ears of this sheep are in focus. Everything else is not in focus. So I think that attracts your attention to this part of the image. If I had taken and that was only possible because I was using a bigger camera. If I was using a phone or a smaller camera, everything would be in focus. So it would be harder to actually get your attention just on that sheep. Everything else would be a little bit distracting. So cameras don't matter, but they do matter at the same time. But I think that most important than that is finding the right conditions. So this is a place that is called Aceredo. It's in southern Orense. You might have heard of this place because there is a town there that has been underwater for 30 years. And now with the drought, it's coming out again. So this is an example of things that we can look for when taking photos. So I really like this scene here, but the reason why I took another photo, that is this one, and the reason why this one is much better than the previous one is because if you pay close attention, you can see the branches of this tree are overlapping with the landscape there. So in this photo, I made sure that there was no overlapping. So there are some things like that to make sure that the subject is clear enough that we can do. This is in the Caurel, a road there, so we can use leading lines. Like roads work pretty well because they make you start looking from here to the end of the photo, and we can find that these are more examples of roads. This is another example of another leading line. This was in Death Valley in California. So these lines like this make you look through the whole image and through the whole frame. So I think it makes for better photos if we find something like that. This is another example of another road. This is another photo from here. This is another line, in this case a diagonal line. So it's pretty simple, it's just a sign, but I think it works because of that diagonal line. Again, another photo from here, from Monforte. I like that it has a lot of horizontal lines here. Here, another of the storks. Again, we have there are a lot of shapes here going on here, a lot of triangles and a lot of lines, these kind of points to the stork. So those are things that we can look for when we take photos. One thing that I wanted to say here too is that we can choose things, for example, to place the stork on the top of the frame. So the stork is like kind of the dominant force in the image in the frame, or we can choose to actually place the subject, like in this case, the stork on the bottom of the frame. So in this case, it looks like the stork is more exposed to the elements and it feels more fragile somehow. So those things change the meaning of the image. We can get close and get some details. Again, this is another image made around here. Another one of my daily walks. A simple mirror. This is for the cars. I think it looks cool. This was during sunrise on another foggy day. You can see the details, the drops of the mist in the mirror. So we can focus on things like that. We can look for symmetry, like this is the old bridge here in town, early in the morning on a foggy day. So we see that there is a shape, the shape of a circle in the middle. So I think that we can look for things like that. This is more symmetry. I don't remember what I took this photo, but it was around here too. There are some reflections on that pond of water. And the next two images are kind of an example of how we can split the frame in two. So here on the top we have a place, in this case the shed, and here we have like a gate that is telling us no, not to go there, to stop. This is a similar example. This is in Rivas Altas. There is like a house there, and the bottom of the frame says stop there. Well, I already talked a little bit about cameras, but I mean, I use all kinds of cameras. I use my phone, those cameras. I use whatever I might have. Depending on the situation, if I'm going on a long walk or a long hike, I'll bring with me a smaller camera. If I have more, I don't know, if I'm shooting from the car or I don't have to go too far away, I'll bring the bigger camera with me. But it's not as important as we might think. And editing, I do edit my photos, but not as much as you might think as well. So I'm going to show you a few examples. Here, this is the original on the right. This is the final image. So here what I did is just I converted the whole thing to black and white. The whites are brighter here, so you can see the trees a little bit better. And also I try to remove little things like, I don't know what that is, but it's a white spot there that I removed here. Tiny things like that. Other times it's just, I leave them like they are. This was in California, up here, a sunrise. So it's just a black and white version. This is another example of an image, the original one and the final one. But sometimes I do process them a little bit more, like in this case. This was a cemetery in the US. So as you can see here, there were two tombs there on the top that I did not like that much. Because kind of were very distracting. I tried to get rid of them, pointing the camera in different ways, but I couldn't find a good angle, so I decided to just remove them. So it was, the final image is a little bit more clear of what I want to show. And this is another example of an image that is much more processed than I usually do. So you can see that there is a lot of stuff there. This is a frozen lake. So those were like kind of pieces of ice and dirt. So I got rid of them there, so all you can see is just nothing there. So this is that is as far as I usually go with editing. And I think this is the last slide. Yeah, I just wanted to say that yes, one click at a time. I show you a lot of photos today, probably too many, but those were made one by one over a period of 4 to 5 years. And I encourage all of you to grab your phone or your camera, whatever you have, and take photos and just go one by one, and maybe, I don't know, see the places that we have around here in a different way, because there are a lot of beautiful things that we can find here. The storks, the fog, and other landscapes like the cañones, or if you go to the coast, there are beautiful places here and that are worth photographing, and not just the way that most people do, but maybe finding your own way and your own style and what you like to see there. And that's all. As I said, you can find me here, you can find my photos, my videos there, and we'll be posting this talk online because I talk way too fast, I feel like, today. So if you want to watch it again or just a part of it, you'll be able to find it there. It's almost 7:30, so that's it. Thank you so much. I hope it was entertaining, and if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask.
Do you know all the states?
What, if I know?
No. Do you know all the states?
No,
The states?
no. I've been to how many? I don't know. I think it was like 30 something, but no. I haven't been to Alaska or to Hawaii or the South. Those I'm missing. It's funny because we always joke that we have a dog. The dog that I showed in the second slide. Her name is Luna, and we brought her with us from the U.S. and she's been to 28 states and to 3 countries. So she's a very well-traveled dog, but. No, I'm still missing a lot of the states, and I hope to fix that in the future, but yeah.
I don't know, it was great. It was just great to be here and be able to see all the pictures and see all the process, so thank you very much.
No, thank you.
I don't have any
Glad you like it.
No, it was great. We have to buy a book.
Well, I think you have to fix that because I think we bought the last copy.
Yeah, I don't know, because I have another book. This is you can take a look. It's here, and I guess you can take a look whenever you want. But these are not really the photos that I show you here. This is more like photos that I took during those travels, but they were not really these images. I have another book, but that is sold out because I just had very limited copies, and it's sold out. I have a few copies in the US, so hopefully next time I come back, I can bring a copy here so you can all see it. But I mean, you can find some images there. They are not exactly the same as the ones that you saw here, but it's a different style. But yeah, yeah. Oh, no worries. But yeah, this is my website. This is.
If we want to buy one of the pictures and
Oh yeah, that's on the website. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a lot of black and white photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you generally shoot them in color and convert them to black and white? Or have you shot black and white with your digital camera itself?
Yes, so I have my camera set up to black and white. So when I look through the viewfinder or the screen, I see black and white. But they are raw files. That means that when I import them in the computer, they still have the color information. So I have to convert them again to black and white. But when I look at through the camera, I see in black and white. And I think it makes a big difference if your photos are going to be in black and white, the final image in black and white. I think it's important to see it from the beginning in black and white, because if you see it in color and you wait until later to convert it in color, it might not work because things might be different. So I think depending on the camera you have, but you can do that with your phone or any camera. You can set it up to black and white and you can just point at everything. I might surprise you actually, because sometimes you see it in color, but when you see it in black and white, it looks very different. But yeah, I do it in black and white from the beginning. Yeah. Well, so I think that's it. Well.
I can guess that you have tried to find your own style.
Yes.
Photography.
Yes.
And fog is essential in your
Mm-hmm.
style. This is it. When did you decide that fog was essential in your style?
Well, I didn't have a choice here because I mean, we have a lot of fog here, so it was either embracing the fog or I don't know, not taking photos here. So, but I like the fog because of what I said. It's very suggestive. Like when you go, I like to go on walks on the canal and around there. So when you go, like for example, this morning it was a beautiful sunrise and it was beautiful colors, but you can see everything. But when I go on those same walks, but it's foggy and you can't see anything but just one tree or two trees, I find that extremely beautiful. And I think, I don't know, I understand that most people don't like it because it's cold and it's dark and it's kind of frustrating for driving, I guess, but I really love it. And I was actually expecting this week to be foggy, but we haven't had any fog. And it's been a little bit of disappointment. Hopefully tomorrow, but yeah.